Good morning, everybody. It is 11 a.m. on the 30th of October, and we're at subcommittee meeting today. I want to welcome everybody to subcommittee meeting. First of all, I need to pass over to Ben Attrell, our legal advisor, who will call for the nomination of the chair.
Good morning. Thank you. Can I have a nomination for chair for this morning's meeting?
I'd like to nominate Councillor George Madgwick.
Is that seconded? Yep, you're in the chair.
Nice and simple.
Over to you.
Wonderful. So I'm Councillor George Madgwick, as they said. Before we get started, any declarations of interest? No? Wonderful. Housekeeping and safety information. If a continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room by the public gallery to the stairwell. Do not attempt to use the lifts assembled by the Queen Victoria statue in the Guildhall Square. To comply with the Guildhall Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who signed at the Guildhall reception should sign out when leaving the building. Everyone speaking via the microphone will be on camera, including those making deputations. The public seating area is not in view of the camera, which is used to webcast this meeting. Members of the press and public are permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records anyone stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Can anybody speaking today use the microphones, and you turn them off and on using the red button, please? And remember to switch them off once you've finished speaking. So we'll do introductions now. We'll do it around the table first. I'll introduce my colleagues to my right first of all, please.
Good morning, my name is Councillor Jason Fazackerley, representative for Nelson Ward.
And to my left, please.
Councillor Hugh Mason, St Jude Ward.
Thank you, councillors. We will now go around the room, starting on my left.
Anna Martin, Democratic Services.
Good morning, members. Derek Stone, Principal Licensing Officer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Attrell. I'm a solicitor employed by the council.
Good morning, Chair members. My name is Richard Baker. I'm the licensing agent acting on behalf of the applicant.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Motilal Kailasnathan. I am the applicant who has applied for the variation of the premises license for London Road Post Office. Thank you.
Councillor Russell Simpson, Hilsey Ward.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm assuming we've got no apologies or anybody that we're expecting. No. Wonderful. So I'm going to start the case. We will do a summary of the application first. So the licensing officer, if you could please present the case to the committee.
Indeed, good morning. So this is an application for variation of a premises licence, and the matter has been referred to the committee for determination following receipt of a relevant representation from Councillor Simpson, the ward councillor. The variation has been submitted on behalf of Agni Retails Limited, and it relates to London Road Post Office, which is situated at 404 London Road. The proposed licence of activities and changes to the current authorisations are as follows. That's to extend the permitted hours for the sale of alcohol, and it's only off sales, members, to 24 hours daily. Currently, the permitted times are as shown on the licence that you have before you. It's also to add the provision of late night refreshment from 2300 to 0500 hours daily, to delete all conditions attached to the existing premises licence and Annex 2, and to amend the retail layout of the premises as per the attached plan, which is attached to your bundle at Appendix B. The applicant has detailed in the operating schedule the steps intended to support and promote the licensing objectives, and they can be found in the redacted application form at Appendix A. On receipt of the application, a public notice was given by way of a press notice, a premises notice, and local ward councils were notified of the application, so there are no grounds for the committee to reject the application for non-compliance with the prescribed advertising requirements. The premises is located in London Road and have operated there since October 2005 as licensed premises for off sales. Prior to the submission of the application, the applicant's agent consulted with the police in late July. As a result of these discussions, conditions were agreed between the applicant and the police, which are outlined at Appendix D. Should this application be granted today, these conditions will automatically be added to the premises licence. There are no representations from any of the responsible authorities, and there is one relevant representation received by Councillor Simpson, who you will hear from today, on the grounds of the prevention of crime and disorder, and he references two other shops nearby which are targeted by shoplifters, He makes reference to the green post nearby as well. And additionally, Councillor Simpson raises concerns around public safety, persons visiting the premises and vehicles parking outside the shop, etc. And you can see the representation made by Councillor Simpson at Appendix C. Members, you'll experience panel members for licensing subcommittee, so I don't think I need to go too much more through my report. But I will draw attention to paragraph 10.14, which is the statutory guidance issued by Section 182 of the Licensing Act. Where there are objections to an application to extend the hours during which licensable activities are to be carried on, and the licensing authority determines that this would undermine the licensing objectives, it may reject the application or grant it with appropriate conditions and or different hours from those required. At paragraph 10.15, it clearly states that shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any times when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives for restricting these hours. And lastly, members, I'll remind you of the review provisions. Obviously, the review is there as a key protection to community where problems associated with the licensing objectives occur after the grant or a variation of a premises licence. If at any stage there are issues and matters are arising at the premises in connection with any of the full licensing objectives, then a responsible authority or any person can request for a review of the licence. I don't need to say any more, members, and I will be here obviously to help you if I can during the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any questions of the licensing officer at all? Yes, Councillor Mason.
You made reference to the various the various qualifications and requirements for the license, and also to the police representation, which we find on page 46 and following. Why was number 13 removed?
I haven't got a copy of that. If I can have just have a quick look.
Page 49 of the papers, you find that remove number 13.
Let me just have a look at the licence, or can you help with that, Mr. Baker?
I think what happened is I duplicated a particular condition when I was liaising with the police, and they suggested that I can remove that condition. So that condition 13 was covered elsewhere in the other conditions.
Okay, where else was it covered?
Oh, if you excuse me, I'll have to get out the paperwork from the...
Oh, right, okay, later then.
Thank you.
I think the other point that's important to stress is that the police haven't made a representation in this application. Conditions were agreed between the police and the applicant. They've not, and on that basis, they've not actually formally made a representation.
But nonetheless, Chairman, I think it is important that we should have the full knowledge of what has been discussed with the police and with the applicant solicitor, so that we can make a full judgment.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any further questions from the team? No? Is there any questions from you, sir, to the licensing manager at all at this stage?
No, thank you.
And Councillor Simpson, is there any questions from you to the licensing manager directly at this stage?
No.
Wonderful. So we will move on. I'm going to go to the applicant's case, which I believe in this case is Councillor Simpson, because he's the one that's put the representation in. Is that correct? You want to go to the thing first? No worries. These running orders change every time I'm here. I love them. by all sense, present your case, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just, a small correction? I'm not a solicitor, I'm just a humble agent. Right, if I could...
Humility is noted.
I'm very grateful to you. If I could ask you to go to my hearing note, hear me all right, which is at page 51. I'll read through that. I won't read all of it, but I'll read through that, and then I can take it from there. So, the applicant company run by Mr. Mothilal Kalasathantam has extensive licensing experience. Mothilal currently runs 4 licensed stores, some of which operate 24 hours. Mothilal has worked in licensed premises for 16 years, with 12 years experience as a DPS. Sankitha, I'll call her Sankitha, a family member, has 4 years licensing experience with 2 years as DPS. Sankitha was appointed DPS to the London Road store in June of this year, although the premises licence is yet to reflect the application. Mothilal is the manager of the London Road Post Office store. Neither the manager nor the DPS have had any licensing issues and understand fully the requirements of the responsible retailing of alcohol. Sankitha works full-time at the premises, and Mothilal is on duty at the shop between 20 to 30 hours per week. The premises were acquired leasehold by the applicant in mid-2022, although the premises has been licensed for many years and have had no licensing issues as far as we are aware, and none since acquisition. The store benefited from a £50,000 refurbishment shortly after takeover. The applicant is not aware of any crime and disorder or noise issues arising from the premises. The premises provide a modern, well-stocked local store. The nearest extended opening convenience store is located a mile away. It happens to be a Shell garage. And therefore, following local customer requests and understanding the needs of local shift workers, has prompted the applicant to extend his trading hours. The post office will operate 24/7. Other services include parcel collection, electronic bill payment, a post office ATM facility, as well as a full range of fresh, chilled and dairy groceries and other normal convenience stores, alongside a modest range of beers, wines and spirits. Representations. All responsible authorities were informed of the application. No representations are made by any of the responsible authorities. The police were approached prior to submission of the formal licensing application and recommended licensing conditions which the applicant agreed. As the officer was due on leave, it was agreed he may suggest some further wording amendments upon his return, should he feel necessary. That offer was taken up, and these suggestions were also subsequently agreed. If a responsible authority does not make a representation, it is reasonable to conclude that the responsible authority has no concerns relating the application. The Section 182 guidance underlines the weight to be given to the views of responsible authorities. I've got a quote here for you. Each responsible authority will be an expert in their respective field, and in some cases it is likely that a particular responsible authority will be licensing authority's main source of advice in relation to a particular licensing objective. For example, the police have a key role in managing the nighttime economy and should have a good working relationships with those operating in their local area. The police should therefore be the licensing authority's main source of advice on matters relating to the promotion of the crime and disorder licensing objective, whilst environmental health, pollution control would normally be the authority's main source of advice regarding noise. Other persons. There are no representations from residents. There is a single representation against the application from Councillor Simpson. I won't repeat Councillor Simpson's representation. Paragraph 9. The representation concerns about the encouragement of drunken, disorderly behaviour, shoplifting, noise and antisocial behaviour. So I'd like to address those by the following bullet points. The premises licence for the Green Post Public Health permits the consumption of alcohol on the premises until 40 hours, Saturday and Sunday mornings, and unto 23:40 hours on all other days. The applicant will have SIA trained staff on duty on the premises from 10 p.m. until at least an hour after the premises licence, so the public house termination time. The premises are well served with a total of 16 internal and external cameras, with the counter positioned close to the main entrance to discourage potential shoplifting. Alcohol displays are all within a clear view of the counter serving staff. If I could ask you just to go to page 33, which is a copy of the updated plan. And if you note that the areas highlighted in red is the alcohol displays, and obviously very close to the counter. Regarding the provision of late night refreshment, which is only going to be a coffee machine, that's highlighted in green. And as I said, all are very close to the counter. A little bit difficult to see on this, but there are cameras positioned both externally and internally within the store, with a monitor in front of the counter so the staff can see exactly what's going on. They have access to a remote control that can either show all cameras showing at the same time, or a single screen if they so wish to have a closer look at a particular area. If we go back to page 53, the applicant has current as well as past extensive experience running licensed 24-hour convenience stores in Portsmouth and the Southampton area. Indeed, his Milton Road, Portsmouth site is very close to the Milton Arms Public House, whilst a previous store he owned on the Twyford Road for many years is within 120 metres of the Mother Shipton Public House. He has experienced no licensing issues from any of his shops. We note that Environmental Health Pollution Control have no concerns re noise, otherwise they would have raised an objection. With regard to parking, there is a lay-by outside the applicant's shop with spaces for 4 to 5 vehicles, depending on their size. Paragraph 10. Whilst these concerns from the council are no doubt genuinely held, it is noteworthy there is no evidence of any known issues of crime, disorder or public nuisance related to these premises. Further, the fact that none of the responsible authorities has made a representation with their experience of other premises in the area is also significant. The focus of Councillor Simpson's concerns seem to be that this store will open later than others. The reason for that is, I quote, but this would encourage visits at all hours and as have seen in other 24/7 alcohol shops, taxis and car users will just park on corners or cycle lanes for passengers to drop in. And that this particular paragraph, that this will cause noise and disorder. These concerns are not supported with any evidence, and as the case of Thwaites emphasises, there is a need for real evidence that regulation was required in the circumstances of the case. A summarised copy is included at Appendix 1, which is pages 62 to 78. If I can invite the panel to go to page 76. I'm sure you're all very familiar with the Thwaites case. I'm not sure if Councillor Simpson is, so if I may just give a brief outline of what that case was all about. So the Thwaites case, a hotel applied for additional hours for their existing premises licence. After initial negotiations, the police did not object. There was one objection from a local conservation society. At the hearing, the licence was granted as per the modified application by the licensing subcommittee. The Conservation Society appealed to the Magistrates' Court and were successful when the justices allowed the appeal. The hotel then appealed for a judicial review to the High Court, who then allowed the appeal. And if I could ask you just to go to paragraph 63 on page 76. I'm not going to repeat the whole paragraph, just a relevant section of it. So this is from Judge Black. It's about a third of the way down, halfway down. However, in my view, their approach to what was necessary, and this is obviously the magistrates, was coloured by a failure to take proper account of the changed approach to licensing introduced by the Act. Had they had proper regard to the Act and the guidance, they would have approached the matter with a greater reluctance to impose regulation and would have looked for real evidence that it was required in the circumstances of the case. Their conclusion that it was so required on the basis of a risk of migration from other premises in the vicinity was not one to which a properly directed bench could have come. The fact that the police did not oppose the hours sought on this basis should have weighed very heavily with them, whereas in fact they appear to have dismissed the police view because it did not agree with their own. So, back we go. So if I can just go back to my hearing note. So page 53 again. As the Licensing Act 2003 Section 182 guidance says at paragraph 1015, which has already been mentioned by Mr. Stone, shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any times when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives for restricting these hours. If we can now move on to paragraph 12, conditions. As well as the mandatory conditions, the premises operate a comprehensive suite of conditions. These are summarised at appendix 2. Excuse me a second. Which are pages 59 and 60. I'm happy to take the committee through each of these conditions, if they so wish. The chair has indicated no. So obviously these conditions have been copied from the police email that we've happily agreed to. So back to 57. The store currently utilises the RB Retail Licensing Manual, which provides practical guidance on all aspects of the sale of alcohol. Now, I've only sent in 5 pages of the manual. I have brought the hard copies with you. I'm happy to test you on it afterwards if you want to read it. Would you like to see it? No. Would the councillor like to see it?
Not at this moment.
As I said, my client has used this in his stores for many years. He's brought along his training records, his right to work for proof of ID for his staff, his refusal books, if any of the committee would like to look at his current compliance. I would imagine the police have seen these already on their regular inspections, all the licensing officers on theirs. Possibly, don't know.
I'm not aware of a recent visit, so I can't help you there, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sure if the officers had concerns about the things, they'd have highlighted it to us anyway. So
I'm grateful for that. Thank you. If I can just finish off on page 58, the conclusion. The store is a valued community asset with a post office that can be used 24 hours a day. The post office will actually will move from the Citadel, which is within the store, and after 5:30? 5 o'clock, there's a separate counter position which is which should be manned by members of staff, so the post office can continue in operation until 9 o'clock the following morning. Okay. So the store is a value community asset with a post office that can be used 24 hours a day. This is a well-considered application by an experienced, responsible retailer for premises with known history of undermining the licensing objectives, and no representation suggests any current problems with the premises. Should the application be granted, the premises license will benefit from up-to-date conditions to promote the licensing objectives. There are no representations from responsible authorities, and no evidence to suggest that a variation to the sale of hours will undermine any of the licensing objectives. The committee is respectfully requested to grant the variation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your well-presented case, sir. It's appreciated. The only point I want to make is in relation to the SIA condition that obviously has been agreed between yourself and the police. I think I know the answer, but I think for transparency it'd be good. But what was the thought process behind the 20 to 1 time or 20 to 2 time? What was the thought process behind that?
I pulled the premises license for the Green Post pub and noticed the limit on the terminal hour for the consumption of alcohol on the premises, not necessarily when it can be provided, but when it can be consumed. And my assumption was that any persons leaving the pub at the end of the terminal hour wouldn't be loitering around any more than an hour. So that's why we put that terminal time in for SIA staff to be on duty at the premises.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillor colleagues, questions? Councillor Zackley.
Yes. You offered us the chance to look at those records that your client's got with him. Yes, can I have a quick look? It'd be interesting to know, one, how far they go back, and just to see how he keeps his records.
Chair, I just need to jump in. I need to be fair. We need to apply the rules fairly to all the parties. Councillor Simpson, and I'll address this now, I was going to wait until he started his presentation, but Councillor Simpson wanted to present some evidence to the subcommittee today, and I had to explain to him that the hearings regulations unfortunately prohibit that unless all the parties to the hearing agree to it on the day. Unfortunately, if it's submitted in advance, then there's no issue. And I would say the same applies in relation to other documentary exhibits that are proposed to be put forward. So, in essence, you just need to double check that Councillor Simpson has no objection to you considering those. And likewise, in relation to the documents that Councillor Simpson would like to rely on.
We'll go to Councillor Simpson's documents prior to him talking, but Councillor Simpson, in relation to the training documents, are you content them to be submitted into the committee, or would you prefer them not to be? I'm happy to take whatever decision you choose.
I will be if they accept mine.
That's not the question I'm
I
asking.
know. It's fine, yeah, let me submit it. That's fine.
Yes?
Yeah.
Fine. Wonderful. So we'll do that first. We'll come back to your one after. So yeah, if you would like to hand over the training documents to Councillor Zackley. Wonderful. Whilst Councillor Zackley inspects those, and I'm sure he'll raise any questions off the back of that, we'll go to Councillor Mason for questions if you're happy with that, so that we can continue the hearing proactively. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. For my clarity, I'd like to follow up 1 or 2 points which you made. You noted that there will be security available until 1 hour after the Green Posts ceases to allow alcohol to be consumed. That leaves a number of hours before the morning rush. How many people will be on the premises in that intervening period of the later part of the night?
There will be a total of 2 staff, but we've since had a discussion, and the SIA member of staff will remain on duty until 5 a.m, sir.
Thank you very much for that clarity. Am I correct in hearing you that post office matters, minor post office matters, will always be dealt with during those hours from the counter and not from the separate post office?
There will be trained members of staff, so it provides a continuous service, unlike there is a settle within the store, which is an enclosed area,
Yes.
which you probably noticed. But as you say, the vast majority of services, or all the services, will be the vast majority of services will be continued through the night if a customer so wishes.
Okay. And my last, you drew our attention to the plan of the store. I noticed that spirits will be behind the counter for safety reasons. How will the wines and other alcohol be protected? Now, we have a spate of shoplifting in this city, and it is often puts the staff at risk. And so I want to know how you're protecting the alcohol which is on open display towards the rear of the shop.
Very good point, sir. Mothilau is a highly experienced retailer. He knows the effect that shoplifting can have on the profitability of a business. So there are numerous CCTV cameras situated, which are checked. And if he notices that someone surreptitiously has slipped some alcohol inside a coat without the staff noticing, then in future that person would be banned from the premises. But as we've said, there'd be 2 members of staff on through the night, one of which is SIA trained. And obviously if there is any issues and the issues become of a nature that may cause the staff harm, there is a burglar and a panic button alarm, so the police can be called as well to assist if that's required. But that's never happened in the 3 years that you've been operating the premises.
So there is a panic button.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. Let me correct that. There will be a panic button. There isn't one at the moment.
Okay, right.
Obviously, because the store closed at an earlier time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And don't worry about the coat. It is when they put it down the specially adapted trousers that it becomes difficult.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any further questions from yourself?
Nope.
Just check the training paperwork. I think I speak on behalf of certainly myself and Councillor Zackley when I say it's one of the most detailed and thorough training records I've actually seen come through a committee before. So well done on that one. I just take a point you'll note there that you said that you're happy for an SIA to be on until 5 a.m. Now, I think for the committee, or certainly for myself, that's a very reassuring thing to hear. Would you be content with that being added into the conditions?
We
would
be.
accept that?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's really reassuring for the committee to hear, and I appreciate that offer, so thank you very much for that. Any further questions, councillors? No? And no, wonderful. So we'll just move on to, I always like to let everybody around the room ask a question, even our legal advisor. So, Rocky, do you have any questions at this point? Ben, do you have any questions at this point? And Councillor Simpson, do you have any questions at this point? Wonderful. So that's wrapped up that one. So we go on to other persons, which at this stage is, as we have no responsible authorities, is just Councillor Simpson. So Councillor Simpson, you can present your deputation in relation to your objection to this application. But before we do that, obviously we've been notified about a late submission of evidence. Now, obviously, as you know, under the law, we don't necessarily have to accept the late submission of evidence unless all parties present in the room are content and happy so. So I need to obviously check with all parties. Are you happy for this late submission to be entered, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You are. Councillors, are you happy for this late submission of entry?
Yes.
Yes? Wonderful. So I think if we can have a copy of this, is it quite detailed, Ben, or?
May we have time?
Okay, so
I've got 2 sets here.
No worries. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close the meeting for just 5 minutes. 5 minutes, so the councillors here can go through the paperwork. If at this time I can ask all people from the room to leave and return at 20 to 12, which is literally 6 minutes time, just because I think that we need to look through it before we continue with the deputation. So I'll close the meeting, Anna, temporarily at 34 minutes past 11. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience, everybody. The committee have looked at this paperwork. Now, I must highlight that obviously during the process of looking at this paperwork, it's been noted that the page from the screenshot that it's coming from is a page that I actually administer. So although I manage 50 plus groups on Facebook, personally in my personal capacity, not in my councillor capacity, of which this is one of those pages. Obviously I wasn't aware of this prior to it. It holds no weight in my mind and it won't in any way conflict my judgment because, as I say, although I own the pages, I don't actually moderate them or anything else like that. It's just an ownership. But I thought it'd be useful to disclose that to you prior to continuing. Do you have any issue with that at all? Wonderful, that's fine then.
And just to confirm, I've advised it's not a personal or prejudicial interest and that it be disclosed for matters of transparency.
Yeah, I think it's always better to be safe than sorry. So, so thank you very much for accepting those, and we will now move on. Councillor Simpson, you may speak.
Thank you, Chair and panel. Today I speak on behalf of the residents concerning 404 London Road premises licence. The residents and I, key concern centres around the prevention of crime. Opening later would encourage more sales, therefore leading to more drunk and disorderly behaviour. In August alone, this section of London Road and surrounding roads had 7 crimes reported, 6 of which were sexually assault incidents. These figures are easily found on the Hampshire Police website. Also, while it won't be on the website yet, there's also been a lot of ASB at the shops and salons along this road, which were reported to the police, but also be found on social media. Hence the submission is actually from September. And if you actually look at the bottom of the picture, you can actually see the actual shop in question, which is one of the reasons why I submitted it. This is a huge concern, and having premises open till late could allow for this to rise. Now, I know this is speculative, but the key to my objection is about preventing, not having to react when it happens. Chair, panel, I must also add the parking issues concerning the area, not only to cyclists and buses, but to emergency vehicles. After 6 p.m, this area is notorious for takeaway vehicles and taxis parking poorly, not only on the double rail lines, but also on the bus lines, hence the submissions of images. And I might also add that you can see the times are to 6 p.m, and that is to anyone to park there. So residents will park there, so there is no spaces outside. When these vehicles are parked on the bus lanes and also on the WL lines, it risks cyclists being diverted off the designated cycle lane, buses manoeuvring around them, and Torrington Road being blocked. The local footfall in this area at the hours proposed would be near zero, but experience shows it would become a popular stop point for taxis. This shop does not offer its own parking, and all parking possibilities are gone from 6 p.m, as seen on the signage. I don't have to explain how difficult it is to park in surrounding residential areas. Obviously, my objection still stands, but if the committee is still minded to grant permission, I was going to ask for a later CAI door staff timings, but as it's been offered already, I don't have to add that in. Alternatively, another suggestion would be a midnight closure. However, when I asked the licensing officers to approach the applicant, as this would have helped remove most of our concerns, the representative refused to engage or negotiate, which I thought was quite disappointing. But that's everything I have to say on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. That was very short and sweet. Councillors, do you have any questions of Councillor Simpson?
Very brief one. Your last point there, Councillor Simpson, about a refusal to negotiate. How did you direct this? You directed this through the licensing officer, did
Yes,
you,
yeah.
Okay, and that's the response that you got?
Yes, basically that
a chance to directly speak to the applicant?
No.
Okay.
Members, do you want me to cover that point?
I was about to say, I think for area of transparency, it'd be useful if you can respond to that, Rocky, and then obviously I'll give you the right response as well.
Well, Mr. Baker can reply as well, but obviously Councillor Simpson's asked if we could run it by the applicant whether they would be prepared to terminate their opening times at midnight, and it was politely declined because obviously they've got a business to run, and it wasn't something they wanted to accept. And Mr. Baker might add a bit more to that.
That's absolutely correct, but at no stage was I asked to contact and to negotiate. Otherwise, I would have been delighted to do so.
Councillor Mason?
Councillor Simpson, most issues, you were saying this could happen, this could happen. However, you said at the beginning, when looking at alcohol, this will lead to drunken behaviour. What evidence have you that the operation will lead to drunken behaviour?
I think it's because of the past record, really, at the pub across the road, and other witnesses that have actually seen a lot of drunk disorderly. But I fully appreciate I would need the evidence to prove it. I'm basing it on residents that live very close to the shop, and they talk about it quite a bit. So, I'm more than happy to accept the fact that I would need more evidence on that.
Thank you. Nope.
Councillor Bazzacoli.
Thank you, Chair. Just to come back, in regards to, I understand the situation, the position you've taken up, Councillor Simpson, and I'm assuming you're speaking. We've got no representations directly from any residents, but one assumes they're channeled through you. That's my assumption. Okay. In regards to issues, the Thwaites case is the one that we see on numerous, and I'm sure you've sat on licensing subcommittees before, and this comes up. It's de facto in law, so we have to bear that into consideration, and that's where the problem arises, I think, sometimes. But in this case, I mean, the applicant here, if you'll note from there, previously held a off-licence or a 24-hour shop in Twyford Avenue, and I think I actually objected to that some years ago when he was the occupant there, on similar grounds to what you're putting forward now. To be fair, since that point, whilst I have had some objections, the objections mainly have been about parking, because again, that's on a corner of a road and it's difficult to park. So, and these tend to come up through survey responses that come back rather than direct phone calls from residents. So I'm glad you seem content in regards to the SIA issue. That's certainly a welcome one that they've accepted. There does remain, of course, the opportunity to review a licence on a premises, as I'm sure you're aware, should a problem engage in the future. But actually, this is not really turning into a question, more of a rambling drawl, isn't it? But yeah, so, but anyway, yes, thank you. So you're speaking on behalf of residents, presumably. That's, I think, my initial question, and before I waffled on. So thank you, Councillor Simpson.
You can respond to whatever that question happened to have been, yeah?
Yes, I am representing the residents, and some residents did actually submit late up to their objections to it, but I had spoken to residents that had seen it. It's a very strange one, because it's normally just an A4 piece of paper stuck on the window, or in some cases, stuck on the lamppost, so it can get missed, but when actually raised to residents, they do actually say, well, actually, I'm not completely happy with that. So that was one of the reasons why I've come today. I just think it's very important that residents have a representation, just to make sure also the applicant knows that the residents are concerned about these things. I just feel that's very important.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. What I will say for the record, especially from a legal perspective, is that obviously because the representations were late, we won't put any weight on any potential or substantial residents' complaints, even through the councillor, because obviously we won't put any weight to those whatsoever. Councillor Simpson, you've obviously submitted late evidence. Can you just talk us through each of these photos and the relevance to the case that you're claiming, please?
Yeah, so obviously the first one was just showing that there's, while the crime's only updated, every 2 months, I believe. In August, there is report. You will see reports in September and October of a lot of, I suppose, a mixture of stalking and a lot of ASB in the area to a lot of the salons which are along that stretch, and the fact that the owner actually took a picture of the person that was staring through the window, and you can actually clearly see the shop is there. The next one is obviously just to show that the parking is only to 6 p.m, so anyone can park there afterwards, and residents do tend to park there. I mean, parking's a problem throughout the whole city, so it's no surprise. The next image, where you can see the full birth of the road, is just showing you that it's double yellow lines all across. There's a cycle lane there. It's coming off a bus lane, and it's pretty obvious that if you can't park in the parking provided, where they're going to go. And normally, I wish I had photos, because I've seen it multiple times, especially around dinner time. All those double yellow lines are gone. I'm sure even the applicant would admit that it gets very, very blocked because of the fish and chip shop there, the Chinese there. It's quite common. and I know there is no specific parking just for the shop. And then the last two images is showing businesses and delivery drivers, taxis. I don't actually know for taxis. I think they're mostly delivery car drivers are parking on the bus lane. So when they can't park there because it's full, they will use the bus lane. And I just feel that that will increase it. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. I think of the points you've made, probably the public safety in relation to taxis and parking is probably the most relevant. So from your local experience as a councillor, and I'll keep it factual, not speculative, please, do you have any experience with local businesses or local residents having issues with parking directly outside or around that shop at all? And could you reference any examples, factual?
Chair, sorry to interject, it's extremely unusual for me to do so when you're in the middle of asking a question. I do need to stress that parking and traffic related issues are not in any way related to the licensing objectives, and they're not considerations for the licensing authority, unfortunately. They do often come within the remit of planning, but so far as licensing is concerned, there may be tangential impacts or impact from parking, such as people slamming doors and causing nuisance in that respect.
I'll interrupt. I thank you for your point. If we'll get the advice afterwards. I think the point here is that Councillor Simpson has raised the connection to public safety. We have to listen to Councillor Simpson in relation to that public safety. We then, as a committee, will decide, with your advice, of course, in closed session, whether we put any weight on that, and then we will inform the agent of so. But I still, regardless, want to hear Councillor Simpson's point on it, so that he has the ability, if he can so do, connect it to the licensing objectives. If he can't connect it to the licensing objectives, then of course we will discard it entirely. Councillor Simpson, could you please answer my question? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, because it kind of...
The question basically was, Councillor Simpson, you've provided late evidence, right? And within these images you have provided, there is multiple cars parked up, you've got the parking bay, you've got, I suppose this is a car parked while waiting for something. So in my opinion, as a member of this panel, I have to determine whether the licensing objectives are being reached. You, as the deputation, as the objector, can have the opportunity to determine whether you can connect those to make a plausible case. I am giving you the opportunity to do so by explaining these photos and the relevance of those to the licensing objectives. We will then decide the weight on it. So the question is simply is, as a councillor in your experience, and I want you to keep it factual only, do you have any relevant information in relation to local businesses or local personal households that have had direct issues that are connected directly to this site?
I have witnessed on multiple occasions, hence why I had pictures of businesses parking in the bus lane because they can't park outside after 6 p.m. I've also witnessed a car actually park onto the pavement outside the actual takeaway, and because they can't even park on the bus lane because it's busy. I've witnessed multiple times on the corner with the double yellow lines blocking even the drop curb for disabled people to get past. It's manic. That is what I've witnessed more than once. I wish I had more images to provide it.
That's fine. And how, in your opinion, do you directly believe that these parking issues that may or may not occur, because these are not factual at this stage, would impact the licensing objective of public safety? Do you believe that there would be a public safety?
I believe if you're open all hours and you can't park outside in the parking bays, I believe that it will obstruct, as I've said before, buses, cycles and emergency vehicles, because people just park up on there, and it's not a particularly wide road either. So that's my concern.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Councillors, any further questions of Councillor Simpson at all? No? Happy? We'll go around the room. Rocky, any questions of Councillor Simpson?
No, thank you.
No worries. Ben, any questions of Councillor Simpson?
No questions, but just to add to the advice that I gave earlier, I do prefer to provide my legal advice in open session rather than closed when the parties aren't here. Otherwise, you have to recount what that advice is during your decision. It's not simply a case of whether or not the licensing objective is engaged. So public safety clearly could potentially, on the face of it, be engaged by dangerous road activities. It also needs to be related to the licensing activity or the licensable activity at the premises. So in this case, the sale of alcohol. It's very well established that parking, road issues, that type of concern is not related to the licensable activity, and is not something that the subcommittee can take into account in its deliberations. Thank you.
Would you like to ask any questions of Councillor Simpson?
Not questions, I've just got some observations on the photograph. Which,
I'm content with that, yep.
I mean, first of all, we're not sure what time the photographs were taken for the vehicles double parking, or indeed what other businesses were open at the time. My client tells me that when he's been working late in the shop, he's noticed more often than not there are spaces available on the lay-by outside his shop. And obviously the hours that were requested, I think probably we need to focus in that those spaces need to be available for the extra hours we're talking about, not for the existing hours, because that's what the variation is for. That's it, sir. Sorry.
More than happy, thank you very much. Okay, any further questions from anybody in the room of Councillor Simpson? Wonderful. So that is basically everything. We will now go to summing up. For those of you in the room that haven't gone through summing up before, we'll go to each person individually to be able to do a short sum up of their case before we adjourn. So first of all, Rocky, would you mind giving a summing up on behalf of licensing?
I've nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now over to the agent. Would you like to sum up anything in a closing statement?
Keep it very, very brief, sir. We've provided documentary evidence showing compliance with existing licensing conditions. As I said before, the store is a valued community asset with a post office that can be used 24 hours a day. We aren't aware of any residential objections, and not all customers come to the store by car. Many of them come on foot because it's a residential. Although it's on a busy commercial route, there are many residential properties behind. This is a well-considered application by an experienced responsible retailer who's had experience running 24-hour stores before without any issues, and there is no known history of undermining the licensing objectives of any sort to date, either from the operator before that we're aware of, or since the clients run the premises since 2022. And we're offering brand new conditions that weren't on the license before that will help keep and hopefully satisfy the responsible authorities and Councillor Simpson. Thank you for your time, sir.
And as I say, just to confirm, you are happy with the condition to be added till 5 AM in the morning in line with the request? You're just content?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you very much. Councillor Simpson, have you got any closing comments, please?
Yes, I do. I just want to note, firstly, that this is not in keeping with the area. The area doesn't have any 24-hour shops. It's all the shops shut at 11 o'clock. People are very much used to that. It would, especially at summertime, you know, when people have to work early in the morning and they have their windows open, and if, you know, they would easily hear more cars coming past this shop. I just thought I'd add that in there, as I didn't in my deputation. I just wanted to submit that, you know, evidence cited. We have poor parking by taxis and delivery vehicles blocking bus lanes and cycle paths, obstructing emergency vehicles. The legal relevance falls within the public safety objective. Unsafe parking and road obstruction near a late-night licensed premises can endanger pedestrians, cyclists and emergency access. How to strengthen this? Reference the photos as I've submitted, showing the block lanes or illegal parking, emphasis the lack of the off-street parking for the premises, you know, and how this contributes to congestion and risk. I think the local transport policies promoting safe cycling routes being compromised is very important too. That's all I have to add.
Thank you, Councillor Simpson. For the avoidance of doubt, what I'd like to do now, just to be safe, is to go around the room and give anybody the opportunity, including councillors, to make any further comments or confirm that everybody is content. They've said everything they want to say, and there's nothing else to say. So I'll give anybody the opportunity to say anything further. No? Wonderful. So what the process will be now, sir, is we will go into a closed session where the committee will obviously make their deliberations with the legal guidance of our legal advisor, Ben. During this time, if you see us outside in the lobby, outside or anywhere else, please do not communicate with us. It's not us being rude, we're just simply not allowed to. We will look to reconvene. I think 30 minutes is probably enough, Ben, if you're content with that.
I think that's a reasonable minimum time, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The earliest that we will reopen the session is at 12:30 today. It might be slightly after, but it certainly will not be before. So you can go away, grab a coffee, do whatever you need to do, and we will be back here no earlier than 12:30. Thank you, everybody.